Have you sprained your ankle, injured your knee, or otherwise hurt yourself in some kind of way and now the injury is swelling?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Today I want to show you guys a method that you can do to alleviate the pain of some of these common injuries. This method is called the R.I.C.E method. So what's going on, guys? It's Rob here from fitnessandfinance.com. And recently, my mom, she had a little bit of an injury. She fell, she hurt her knee, and it's very swollen. Lucky for her, I have some training in first aid, and I know a few ways that I can help her ease the pain. And no, whiskey is not on this list. The method I'm talking about is called the R.I.C.E method. Rest, ice, compression, elevation, and in that order. This is a method that you would want to use for most basic injuries, but if something is more severe and pain persists after doing this method, you definitely want to go see a doctor. All right, so the first tip to the R.I.C.E method is smashing that like button, subscribing to my channel, and hitting that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I upload new videos. Okay, but seriously, the first thing to do is rest. That should seem obvious. If you've injured your leg, you want to quit walking on it. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to put more pain and more strain and stress onto the injured part of your body. I know a lot of people have a no pain, no gain mentality, but this is gonna hurt your recovery time. And see, if you just take a few days, maybe 1 or 2 days off of your training and give your body part some time to rest, you're gonna be back in the gym sooner than if you were to just work out on that injury and make a small sprain or fracture become much worse. A fracture is not actually a small injury. So just take some time, catch up on Tiger King on Netflix or whatever your favorite show is, and just relax. All right, so the second thing that you'd want to do in this method is ice the affected area. Ice can be effective in multiple ways. 1, ice can alleviate some of the pain by numbing the area. 2, ice actually can draw blood away from the affected area towards the heart because your body focuses on keeping your internal organs in your chest and that area warm over your extremities like your legs and your arms. You can either use an ice pack, or if you don't have one of those, you can just put some ice cubes in a bag like I've done here. When applying ice to an affected area, you don't want to put ice directly on the skin. That can cause frostbite. So instead, use a small hand towel or something like that to put in between the ice and the affected area. So the third thing you'd want to do is compression. This means to put pressure on the affected area. You want the pressure to be intense enough that it's tight around the affected area, but not so tight that it cuts off blood circulation and causes swelling in the area. You can buy compression sleeves on Amazon for really cheap. I'll put a link down in the description below, but I actually don't have one. So all I use is I have some medical, they call it spandage in the medical field because it's like a spandex and a bandage mixed together. Anyways, you could take this kind of bandage and wrap it around the area to make it tight. But remember, we don't want it so tight that it cuts off the blood circulation. All right, and the fourth and final thing that you'd want to do in this method is elevation. And what you want to try to do is you want to try to take the affected area and raise it above the heart. So in this case, it's my mom's knee that's injured. We've propped her knee up on a pillow or anything comfortable. You know, you can get creative with this, but I think a pillow works just fine. This one also helps with blood flow like the ice does. All right, y'all, so there you have it. Real quick recap, the R.I.C.E method: rest, ice, compression, elevation, in that order of importance. I hope you guys like these short little videos. I plan on doing some longer ones, but I also like to keep my videos straight and to the point.